Hi, this is Bob Costa with National Review, joined by my friend Chris Moody from Yahoo News, political reporter. You just got back from Florida, right, Chris?
Yeah, I was in Florida over the weekend for the straw poll and the CPAC and all the other craziness that comes out of Orlando.
And what do you make of Herman Cain's win? It was pretty surprising. Do you sense any mischievous things going on with Mitt Romney putting delegates towards Cain? Or was it just a total flop by Rick Perry?
Well, it was a couple of things. There was some talk about maybe, Romney urging people to vote for Cain, but there's nothing that I could find that, could make that substantive. There was just a few, campaign aides, trickling that out here and there. But, I mean, a lot of people came to Orlando on Thursday with the plan to vote for Rick Perry. And on Thursday night, they sat in the debate hall, and, he tried to make the attack on Mitt Romney. He flubbed it. Most of them were okay with that, but, a little bit uneasy. But the real thing that hit him, that hurt him, was when he called the entire audience, almost, or a big portion of the audience, heartless. He said, if you don't agree with me on my position on immigration, where he gives children of illegal immigrants access to public schooling and discounts on, or in-state tuition on higher education, he said, you don't have a heart. And that was the real kicker. That's what turned a lot of people off. And so you had these thousands of people in there going, well, now who are we going to go to? And Herman Cain spent a lot of time that weekend meeting with supporters. He was in a different hotel conference hall almost every couple of minutes, meeting with new groups of people. He had a huge fingerprint there, a lot of volunteers. And he kind of stole their hearts for the weekend. And I think what I would what I would say about it is that instead of it, being a huge loss for Perry, it was more of a hand slap, I think, saying, don't do that again because we will punish you for it. And I don't think they're going to flee from him, but they're certainly more attracted to a guy like Herman Cain right now. But a straw poll vote is not necessarily a vote, for 2012 for the nomination.
That brings up a good point in the sense that these straw polls are increasingly meaningless. If Herman Cain is a great story, he's an interesting candidate, but the gaffes he's made in the past few months, his little infrastructure across the country, his bank account, which has almost nothing in it, this is not a guy who can play on the national stage. He can be a force at the debates. But if Herman Cain's winning straw polls and Michelle Bachmann wins one and then fades, I'm just not sure we in the media, Republican primary voters, should give so much credence to these things, because they don't seem to determine much. They're just a popularity contest based on who's showing up.
Right. Well, I wouldn't call it meaningless. I would say it can give us indications of a snapshot in time. It's meaningless if you want to make it out to be like,
do you think Herman Cain's really winning in Florida? See, that's my point.
No, I don't. There was I think it was Quinnipiac poll that came out just a couple of weeks ago or last week that showed him near last. So what I mean is it's meaningless in that it won't show you the nomination, but it will show you how a candidate's rhetoric, in this case Rick Perry, can affect him. And it will tell you something about the Republican activists in Florida. Is they're willing to punish one of their own when they go wrong, and Cain does have a small but passionate following, and that's growing, but again, it's not enough to carry him to the Republican nomination in 2012. It's not going to, but he can still have an impact on the path, on the road.
What do you make of Cain's path, if at all? Obviously, I'm skeptical. This must give him some kind of momentum, and maybe even more than Michelle Bachmann, who won the Ames straw poll.
I think it really will, because Cain had no events scheduled this week, when he went into the debate on Thursday. And, now his campaign people can't get off the phone with media bookers trying to put him on. So, I mean, that's one thing that these straw polls do is they give lower-tier candidates a boost. They give them some momentum. And it gives us all something to talk about. So Herman Cain is very busy this week, and he probably wouldn't have been had it not been for that. And then he's going to go into the next debate. I think we have a 2-week break here. It's about time. But we have going into next debate with that momentum. He might get an extra question. So it might change the books a little bit that are written about this campaign, but it's not necessarily going to propel him. But also. This will this could, in the long term, hurt a guy like Rick Perry. It might or might not. I have a feeling his debate performance was overplayed in that, this is the end for him. I don't think so. First of all, not everyone's paying attention yet, and it's a long way to go.
I think Rick Perry continues to be hurt by just these little straw polls. Mitt Romney continues to coast. Mitt Romney is, in many ways, the front runner in terms of infrastructure and money, and he just continues to avoid any kind of real heat.
Well, he's playing it cool. Did you see him in the debate? He's standing up there, contrast him with Rick Perry. Romney stands there, hand in his pocket.
That's right.
And then coolly responds to the attacks. Hey, nice try. And Rick Perry is, trying to fumbling along. So there is a tortoise and the hare aspect to this, and I think Romney knows it. Romney has done, I think, nearly 20 debates since he first ran for president. He's good at this. He's done it a while, and I think he's able to step back and see the bigger picture here. Perry's new. He didn't do very many debates as a Republican or as a Texas governor, and this is obviously his first one on the national stage, and this ain't Texas.
Yeah, that's so true in the sense that Perry has been running for weeks. Romney's been running, as you say, for 5 years. I think Romney has some things to worry about. He's doing okay in the polls, but he's not wowing them in Florida straw polls. In the national polls, he's doing okay. He's up 27 in the latest New Hampshire poll. But beyond New Hampshire, it seems like he's a weak front runner still.
I think a weak front runner, but with sustainability. As you said, he's got the infrastructure, and I've got a feeling he's going to turn it on real hard at some point, but they're just waiting, maybe waiting for more people to pay attention. The Iowa is not until January, so we've got an entire holiday season to get through. What's interesting about him, he's been on the campaign trail basically for 5.5 years. That was part of Perry's spin after the straw poll. Perry's guys came out and they're like, well, this is a devastating defeat for Mitt Romney because, look, he's been running for 5 years and he didn't even win this. So, but I think in reality, Romney, as far as the media war, won this one because look at all the headlines. It wasn't Herman Cain beats Romney. It was Herman Cain defeats Perry. That was a headline everywhere. And I think that's a good strategy for Romney where he doesn't participate so he doesn't get that bad press.
So where does the race stand right now? Is someone else going to get in here? Is Chris Christie going to jump in? I'm doubtful about that.
I'm so skeptical. Yeah, me too. I don't see why he would. National politics, as you know, is dirty, and he's got enough to deal with in New Jersey. He's new on the scene. There's a lot to dig up, and in the background there. I don't see any benefit really to him. He already has a huge national profile. I mean, why?
There's got to be an opening. There really is an opening with Rick Perry falling and stumbling in these debates. It has to tempt Christie. I think in this 24/7 media age, Christie, as strange as it sounds, could jump in and get the money from the big dollar donors, have the web buzz. He's already a YouTube star. I have to think he's seriously considering it. I'm talking to some New Jersey people this morning, and they all don't think he's going to run, but there's temptation there. This is just a weak field with Romney not running strong, Perry stumbling, Bachmann faded, Herman Cain is Herman Cain. Yeah,
but the temptation's there. But he's also young. There's more cycles to be had. I think, in a way, kind of like Marco Rubio. Everyone said you need to run for president. I think he's got plenty of time to do that, and he knows it. A lot of these guys run for president, maybe knowing that they might not win, but they can boost their profile. Guys like Rubio and Christie, I don't think they need it, and I don't think they want that kind of attention just yet.
What about Huntsman? Is he running a different race here? That's my thought. He's not even really running for the nomination. He's looking to be a figure in the party, figure in politics.
I think he is. Of all the lower tier candidates right now, I think Huntsman is gunning for the nomination, and he meant to when he ran. A lot of people have said he's gunning for 2016 or 2020, laying the groundwork. That's quite possible. His campaign base is in Orlando, and he's putting all his chips into New Hampshire. He was third in the poll. I think it was last week, and the Huntsman team played that up quite a bit. He could win New Hampshire if he really turns it on. No, that's not to say he's going to win the nomination, but it'll get some buzz. One of the biggest, I think one of the most entertaining things about the Florida straw poll last weekend, when the numbers came out, we said, okay, Cain wins, Perry second, Romney third, and we looked, and Huntsman had beat Bachmann by, a number of points.
Right.
Bachmann got dead last. And at that event, there's 3 days in the Orlando Convention Center, Bachmann had that crowd on fire every single day. Now, she didn't officially participate in the straw poll, but man, she would get up there and, she was their darling. Herman Cain was too, for a large part, but Bachmann got the applause lines, that got people riled up, people yelling, they loved it. But then it's kind of like they're like, all right, well, you're good for that. You get us riled up. We know where you stand. You're not going to, go behind our backs on a big vote, but we're not going to elect you for president. And I think we saw that in the straw poll. And I think even though Bachmann didn't participate, I can't imagine. I think she would have to be a little disappointed to get dead last behind Huntsman. Huntsman didn't rile up the crowd at all.
Right.
He
quotes Nirvana, smiles, and says a little Chinese. Or like that SNL skit. But one thing about Bachmann, when you mention her, it brings to mind her strategy or her lack of one. She made her name, as you know, we both cover Capitol Hill together, as a spoiler, as someone who really riles the House GOP leadership. She was a leader on the CR fight, of course, on Obamacare. The latest CR fight that's consuming Washington right now, Bachmann's been non-existent. And this is a person who's putting her entire presidential message on the point that she's a congressional Tea Party hero. Yet she's missed votes since August, most votes since August. And on the CR fight, which is the heart of the conservative battle with the GOP establishment right now in Washington, she's absent. And if you're making a congressional argument on the trail, I think all these missed votes and she's not a presence, I don't understand what she's doing. What's her argument anymore? Well,
let's look at her role in Congress. She's not on any leadership teams. She's not the head of any committee.
She's a self-appointed head of the Tea Party caucus.
Self-appointed, right. She's head of the caucus, but she doesn't really have much pull in Congress. She can't corral votes. She can corral a couple votes, but she doesn't have the power there. She's a symbolic figure. She's kind of a show horse. There's workhorses in Congress, show horses. And she hasn't submitted any bills that have become law, et cetera, et cetera. So, look at Congress. Like, has anyone come out to endorse her? Any of her colleagues there?
Not even Steve King.
Yeah, he's not even, right. He's not sure yet. But, they're besties,
right.
And in fairness, King, kind of got burned when he endorsed somebody early in 2008, Fred Thompson. Right. He came out, I think, in late fall, maybe early winter, and he came out Fred Thompson, then Thompson fizzled out. So I think King is stepping back, and he knows he's got, the sway in Iowa, but I don't think he wants to pick a loser again, even though they're very good friends. There's no doubt about that. But, as you know, Bob, in this town, sometimes you separate your friends from, your pragmatic, working priorities, and people are able.
Kane's going to have a tough re-election out there in Iowa. With the redistricting, I think he.
Oh yeah.
He's going to be all the way down to Ames now. He's usually just the western part of Iowa, so he's going to have a tough re-elect. So maybe that's part of his calculus.
Yeah, it might be. A lot of these guys. A lot of the Tea Party heroes that were swept in, like Alan West down in Florida, might have to fight for his seat.
Can you believe that?
And there's some big money, from what I understand, against him. Obviously, he's got national fame, and he's on that the district down in Florida. So a lot of these guys are going to have a tough time. It's going to be really interesting when all those lines are drawn to see what happens.
What about Sarah Palin? I was on a radio show the other day, a foreign radio show, and every question was about Sarah Palin. And it was a reminder that as much as she may not be part of the picture in the Beltway or on a campaign trail, there's fascination there, as we saw with the latest books about her. People are still into her. Do you think she's going to run at all? What's your take?
I think it's about money.
You think it's about money whether she runs, so she wants to keep making it?
No. Well, I think she's able to milk this as much as she can. I don't. It's hard to say. Like, we sit here, we pontificate. Will she run? Won't she?
Well,
I don't think
she'll.
Yeah, I don't think she'll run to win. She sent out that fundraising email, or her PAC sent out the fundraising email that said, should she run? Send us money and we'll think about it. And now a lot of candidates do that. A lot of people test the waters to see if they can raise money. But I'm not sure she's doing it in good faith. And I hate to,
See, I disagree with you. I think Palin actually is not as, I'm not as cynical about Palin. I think Palin just is indecisive on this. I think she wants to run. I think she would love to run. She would love to be the nominee. You don't go to Iowa and eat corn dogs and stay out in that heat unless you have a real keen interest, I think.
But I also think she's having a lot of fun shaking things up.
True.
She said she's getting a kick out of this. I mean, she's a media star. She's great at it. She can go into a place and just like shake up a house. People cheering on her feet. You've seen it, Bob. She's very good at that, and I think she enjoys what she's good at. And as long as she can tease the presidential possibility, she'll stay relevant. I mean, imagine what happens to Sarah Palin when she announces, "I'm not running." Don't you think she would lose a little bit of interest among people, among the media? Now, we'll all want to know, who are you endorsing, if anyone? But beyond that, as long as she stays a maybe, she keeps us talking about her. And I think she likes that.
I think part of her, I think Palin, though, will not be forgotten if she decides not to run. In the sense that, yes, maybe that's part of her decision that she doesn't want to, she wants to milk the maybe status. But she's going to be as much a celebrity, as much as a looming political figure in the Republican Party when she says she's not running. She may not be winning the nomination or part of the nomination contest, but I mean, she's not going to go away. She's going to have sway. She's going to be endorsing Senate candidates and gubernatorial candidates and House candidates as well. So I think maybe her maybe is not just money, but she wants to be a presence, and she's trying to figure out how.
And I also think I think she's very calculated. Like I said, she's good at this. So I have no doubt that she knows exactly what she's doing here. And like I said, as she has said, she's getting a kick out of it.
And that Joe McGinnis book that came out recently, I think it really didn't get much traction, and it got a little buzz. And I think that's indicative of how Palin's evolving in the political consciousness, in the sense that it's not just celebrity stuff and gossip, but that's been such a part of her since she lost the VP nomination in that race with McCain. But now that seems to be, in a slight way, falling away, and she's just becoming more of a straight political figure. She's not just a gossip item.
Well, I think that you hit it. You nailed it. The reason that book just kind of came and went really quick. I mean, it was all based on these. Somebody in Wasilla told me one time while I was living there that Sarah Palin had done this thing 30 years ago, and people like to see that and to hear that, but that's not going to be that's not going to change the course of her campaign or her life or her brand just based upon some gossip. She can take that. I mean, the book was just, I don't think it settled with people well. They wanted to know, I mean, something more substantive. This guy, this book was played up for, I mean, when did we first hear about him moving next door to her?
And the thing is, I like Joe McGinnis as a writer. I think he's great. It's on the President. It's one of my favorite books. I first started to fall in love with politics. But this, when you browse the road, there's such a lack of citation, and there's reporting, but it's reporting from a resident or a neighbor without a name. It's just not a book I think that's going to have much play. But Herman Cain's coming out with a book too, and everyone seems to be coming out with a book.
This is Herman Cain! ! And it's what's the subtitle of Herman Cain's Road to the White House?
I mean, he's had an amazing story. Do you know anything about his story?
I do. I met with him last week and just talked mostly about his background. He was a mathematician. He was a rocket scientist for the Department of the Navy. Then he got his degree, a master's degree in computer science. Then he headed up all these successful companies. Herman Cain's kind of a jack of all trades guy that anything he touches becomes gold. He's good at a lot of things, and I think he's a very smart person. He's obviously shown that in his record in business and in mathematics. And he's able to do these things, but I think he also gets bored really easily. He told me he does get bored because the smartest kid in the class oftentimes might not even do well because he's so he gets bored doing the normal stuff. So he's a guy with a high threshold for a challenge, and that's why I think the presidential campaign was perfect for him. He told me that this is the hardest thing he's ever done, and he just defeated cancer, for goodness sake. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. His story is pretty great and is fascinating.
When he first entered the race, I did a long profile of Herman Cain, and you're right. This is a guy who is the son of the chauffeur for the Coca-Cola CEO. He works his way through school. He serves his country, the military.
Well, he wasn't in the military.
Right, worked for the Navy.
Civilian, right.
Worked for the military, and one of my favorite stories about Herman Cain is how he was at Burger King and would go through the training program as an executive and sweep floors and mop the bathroom, and really got into the nitty-gritty of things.
Right. Now everybody does that, right?
That's
Didn't
right.
they, kind of kick that off? Yeah.
But politically, this is a guy who lost the Senate primary to Johnny Isakson a few years ago, then got cancer, had a radio show that no one had heard of outside of Atlanta. And to think that he's soared this much, it's an amazing political story if you step back. I mean, I think Herman Cain's story is almost more impressive in a lot of ways than Michelle Bachmann, in the sense that Michelle Bachmann gets so much play for winning the Ames straw poll. But Herman Cain was not a sitting member of any body of Congress, and for him to have this kind of momentum is just
Herman Cain. He often gets written off as the pizza guy, former Godfather's pizza guy, and he wasn't his. He's not just the pizza guy. That was one thing he did, just recently. A very diverse background with this guy, and as you said, he lost that campaign in the Senate. So he's been through a lot in just the past 10 years with cancer and everything. But he just bounces back, and he can be on the campaign trail. And you've seen him, Bob, right? On the campaign trail,
sure.
Like people love him. They come up to him, and he gets up to that crowd.
He's the best speaker by far, I think, on the stage.
Yeah,
this is a guy who made a killing on the motivational speaker circuit. And this is a guy who really can speak.
Yeah.
Not just as good speaker politically, but
all right. And when he meets with people, I've seen him. He really gives them some time. And he also seems to be enjoying it. You see a lot of candidates out there, not just presidential candidates, politicians in general, that are just going through the motions, the smile, and hey, nice to kiss your baby and everything. But Cain seems to be having fun. I saw him. You remember when they had a very small kind of Tea Party-ish rally across from the Capitol just maybe a month or so ago, and Cain rolled up, didn't even speak, just kind of walked around and talked to people.
That's typical Cain. That's classic.
Yeah, and he gives people time, and they like it for it. And he's not, when he talks to them, he doesn't write them off. They get a very genuine feel from him, and I think it's because he has emerged from the same cloth as a lot of them, working in private industry, making it on his own. So he has this story of I relate to you. I not to pull from Christine O'Donnell, but I'm you, and he really is.
I can't believe you just quoted Christine O'Donnell.
Sorry.
You gotta get that out of your system, my friend.
I heard I'm you in my head, and I couldn't,
I'm not gonna go into that. I actually hear he has good relationships behind the scenes with Romney and other contenders. This is there's a Michelle Bachmann and him I hear are very close.
Oh, they're buddies. Yeah, they did all sorts of Tea Party rallies together, and again, that's how politics works. You're friends with people, but you're able to go in front of the curtain and give them hell. He hasn't softened up on Romney in the debates. Remember the dog won't hunt line on Thursday. He's not pulling punches. He from what I hear, he's got an op-ed coming out later this week where he plans on hitting the other candidates and obviously promoting his economic plan. He's not one of these guys that he might be their friend, but he's not one of them that's going to stay back, not hit when he has the opportunity. He told me that he got finished speaking when he was doing the debate and he had 10 seconds left. Right. And he's like, this is my chance. And then he hit Romney with the dog won't hunt thing. These guys, some of them won't do that. And he's kind of showing that he will.
So what else is on your mind with 2012? You were just down in Florida.
Yeah, that was. I've taken a couple campaign trips here. The interesting thing about Florida and this straw poll that I think doesn't get as much play as it should is that the rules of this straw poll were much, much different than a normal one. Let's say at a CPAC conference or Values Voters Conference where anyone can just show up with their ticket and go in. This was made up of really active Florida Republicans that had to go through a vetting process through their local county Republican club or Republican parties, and then receive a delegation status, and then they paid, I think it was $175 for the opportunity to go vote up in Orlando. So one interesting little side story about that was you noticed that Ron Paul, who is really good at straw polls, didn't do so well, and that's I think because there was a lot more hurdles. You couldn't just send a bus of kids down and give them all tickets and have them, vote. They had to be actively involved with the Republican Party for a number of months and get in there and, organize their trip through those local groups. And because of those hurdles...
So Herman Cain maybe be more enthusiastic about this than I thought. This is a pretty legit
this is not a
straw
normal... Well, legit as far as straw polls come. I think, like we said earlier, it doesn't mean that the nomination is locked in. I think it really was a hand slap against Perry, because a lot of them did show up with Perry stickers and Perry buttons on their lapels, and they walked out with Herman Cain buttons. That happened. Actually, funny story from Orlando. The Herman Cain people had, all of them have their swag, their boxes of stickers and T-shirts. They completely ran out on Saturday morning of everything, bumper stickers, everything. And there were Herman Cain volunteers literally taking the stickers and the clips off of their shirts, taking their campaign shirts off and handing them out to people, while another campaign guy rushed another bunch of boxes over to the Orlando Convention Center. So the campaign people didn't see this coming. They invested a lot into it. They wanted to have a good showing, but I think a lot of them just were kind of blown away by the reaction on Saturday.
Looking at the map, Chris, one thing Herman Cain's win really could shake up is Iowa. Everyone expects Perry, who's winning in the polls there, to do well in Iowa, and if he wins the Iowa caucus next year, it'll be a big trampoline jump as he heads towards New Hampshire, where he probably won't win, but heads towards South Carolina. If Herman Cain, you and I both been in Iowa, he's very popular there. If Herman Cain wins Iowa, Perry, everything's in upheaval. That's
because then he won't win New Hampshire. Probably might win, South Carolina.
But Herman Cain is near his hometown of Georgia. Anything's possible in a way. I mean, I just think Herman Cain could be real trouble for Perry in a way that they always thought maybe Bachmann would be trouble in Iowa.
So you're saying like Herman Cain has kind of displaced Bachmann in that role, but Cain didn't do very well in that Iowa straw poll. However, he didn't really have many resources to. And
that's his key problem, and that's something any discussion of Cain has to take into account.
Right. Now, they had record fundraising, from what I understand. This comes from the Cain people, but they had thousands of new donors, they said, as a result of...
And probably small donors, and that's great for Herman Cain.
$10, $15 here and there, but I don't know if he'll have a huge donor base, millions of dollars to play in Iowa now. But I think you might be onto something. Imagine if Cain takes that at Iowa.
Or Cain, Bachmann, block pushes Perry into second and third.
Yeah. Perry needs Iowa, no doubt. At least for...
with Romney up 27 in New Hampshire, Perry has to... South Carolina's a must-win. Romney's going to win Michigan, based on that latest straw poll, at least from Hack. Florida is Florida. I'm not sure.
Never sure with Florida.
What about Rick Santorum? Everyone's talking about how he has had such a strong debate because he made Perry engage. And Perry, I think, made a key mistake. And Romney has been successful in these debates because he coasts, he stays in the top tier, he doesn't meddle with the other competitors. Whereas Perry, maybe just because he's been running for weeks, if someone takes a shot at Perry, Perry comes right back full force. And Santorum, who is going nowhere in this race, suddenly had the attention and the spotlight because he was able to engage Perry. Mistake by Perry, I think, politically. But Santorum is now suddenly the subject of countless stories, looking at how he has buzzed the frontrunner on immigration, how he's really maybe taken up a new social conservative space. And Santorum's own momentum goes into my own thoughts about Iowa, and how Bachmann, Cain, now even Santorum's having some wind in his sails. That really complicates things for Perry who we all thought just jumps in and soars and wins Iowa and runs with Romney. It seems more complicated now.
I'm not so sure about the Santorum momentum.
I know. I say that with a huge asterisk.
But all of these candidates are playing their own roles in this debate, and I think they're all important. Santorum has come out as just one big attack dog. He's landing a couple punches. He's not landing all of them. But he's able to come out there and he hits hard when he hits. And he might be supplementing other guys, but if that's all he's got, I don't know if that's going to be momentum, because I mean, he comes across as a little angry at the debates. He's like, the SNL parody, actually of all of them, I thought was pretty good, and with him just
Andy Samberg was spot on, I think.
The world is going by so fast, and he's just trying to hold on for the last vestiges of the past, and he's trying to withhold those values, and obviously he's got a tight grip, but it's slipping, and he can feel it. But I think you always got to have a guy like that in the Republican primaries. That's
questionable.
Doing that. I think it's fun. I think you got to have a guy like that. I mean, I'm not.
You mean a social conservative leader, perhaps? But Santorum. Someone who loses Pennsylvania by that margin in 2006, then decides to run 6 years later for the presidency. Is just how he's being taken seriously. I come from Pennsylvania. I'm conservative. I've always had respect for Santorum. I think he's a decent man. Obviously a good father. But the whole thing about Santorum is, I think he's shown this campaign that he lets things get under his skin. He's publicly talked to reporters about how he doesn't like the questions, he doesn't like debates, he doesn't like how he's not getting enough time. And he's just a whining candidate. Even though he's
getting a lot of time, though.
I think now he's getting a lot of time.
Yeah.
Something about his whininess, even though he's a decent fellow, it's just, I think, never going to let him be a top-tier contender.
I think you're right. That's what the SNL kind of came across as.
SNL, why are we even doing this? SNL captures everything perfectly.
I know, right. You got Newt Gingrich in there who, they ask him, do you even want to be here? And he thinks about it. No. Then he walks away and fist bumps Herman Cain, or high fives him as he's going out.
Which I thought was one of Rick Perry's greatest lines: "Mate, Cain and Gingrich." Cambridge.
And a lot of people, put them together online and made a creepy image
very creepy
that I haven't been able to get out of my head, or a Cain Gingrich baby. I'd be interested to know with Gingrich how he thinks the course of the debates are going. He's been rejecting the premise of almost every question he gets, and then hit somebody for asking Mickey Mouse questions was his line. Does he think things are getting better or worse? Be interesting.
He's going to be unveiling a new contract for America,
right?
Pretty soon, and that could get him some attention. But I think SNL is pretty spot on in the sense that this is a guy who's playing a different kind of race. He's running for status within the party. He's in his mid to late 60s now. He's running to influence the party, almost in a way like Ron Paul does, but from a more establishment perspective. He wants to influence the debate. He wants to shape it. His chances at the nomination are tough, but this is a guy who has a lot of ideas. For instance, I went down to Richmond recently and interviewed Bob McDonnell, who's part of the Deep Chatter this year. And I was asking about when he was a young state legislator in the 90s and the 80s, and who did he look up to? And like so many people, including Marco Rubio, another person who's mentioned in the Deep Chatter, Gingrich is cited as a hero. And so part of this is not a swan song for Gingrich, but it's a recognition of his accomplishments, which still, decades later, from 1994, are so fondly remembered within the GOP.
Well, I think his new Contract with America plan is going to re-solidify him as the ideas man. He's a guy you want on your side to come up with a plan to fix stuff, but not the guy to lead it necessarily. So, maybe this will help him in that regard, but I can't see this changing the course of the debate. People, in the States reading this plan and going, he's our man. They'll just be like, oh, he's Gingrich. Great. I'm glad he's on our side. That's what they'll probably say. And it'll get a lot of play by us. I'm sure we'll read it and write about it. And it'll be interesting to see if the other candidates pick it up. What do they say about it? Are they going to look at it, and if one of us asks them, what'd you think? Are they going to be like, oh, it's a terrible plan? I have a feeling they're all going to get behind it in some way. Maybe not publicly, but Gingrich is their think tank on that stage for a lot of them. They use his stuff a lot.
And if that ended up being the case, that's a win for Gingrich.
Right.
I mean, what else was he really expecting out of this? Especially when his advisors quit to go work for Rick Perry.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was devastating for him.
Who do you think is going to have the most fun ads this cycle? We've already, we saw.
I think one person I can't wait to
Perry.
see is John Huntsman. More Huntsman. I think Huntsman's
in New Hampshire.
Strange pop culture analogies are one of the most humorous parts of this cycle. And I would love to see him pull some Captain Beefheart tracks and samples into a political ad that has to do with China and Red Scares and maybe that animation from Asia. I mean, Huntsman, I think, is a creative...
Taiwanese animators?
Why not? Huntsman's a creative guy, has a love for quirky things. So bring it on. I think, actually, Perry, he's using Lucas Baiano, who's the Palin director and producer who made Palin's epic Michael Bay type advertisements. I think that's actually it's done. I think he's a great guy. I think his product is excellent. This is not a commentary on his work, but in the sense that was Palin's shtick. And I just feel like Perry's copying Palin's shtick with the big bursts of color and the sepia snapshots of American images. It's been done. And Perry, when I saw him picking up Palin's video guys, I said, okay, smart hire. But who's Perry? Is he just... And it's really the same kind of thing. And so, look, maybe Perry is trying to quickly get someone, but again, that's Palin. It's not fresh. But it is cool. There are fun videos, that's for sure.
You did notice that Perry upped the ante. Palin had an exploding handshake. Perry had an exploding high five. So, they're taking it a step up, no doubt. But I think those videos do rile people.
That's true.
Very effective.
They get on Drudge Report and they get a lot of hits.
Yeah, and I can't wait till the end of this campaign where we can string them all together and have like a screening and popcorn, and it'll be intense. I think it'll make for a lot of fun mashups when you put them all together and make a feature film here.
Speaking of beefs, who are your picks as potential?
Everybody wants Rubio. No doubt about that. They're looking at him, and he's a coveted guy right now. He hasn't made clear if he will ever say yes in this cycle, get involved in the whole presidential game. You mentioned Bob McDonnell in Virginia. Solid pick, kind of Southern. Has a pretty steady conservative record. That's the top two I think that folks are considering here. And, again, you never know. We could have a dark horse like in 2008 with somebody like Palin you've never heard of and propel them to the national stage. I'm sure there will be some phone calls made to Chris Christie, but he has made pretty clear that he's not interested in being anybody's number two. Would you want him as your number two? He knows he wants to be number one. So what are you thinking? Same lines, or do you have any?
I think same lines. I think it could be a wild card too. I think geography may matter more than we think right now, and I think McDonnell would be interesting in the sense, but I don't think Republicans are going to maybe need to pick up Virginia. They voted for McDonnell by 17 points in 2009. I think it could, not that he was going to get tapped, but Pat Toomey, senator for Pennsylvania, is someone who is a key swing state. He's a respected fiscal hawk, experienced conservative, if you're Romney. There's a lot of people out there who are not really part of the buzz, and Rubio, of course, I think the number one pick for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Now, while everyone's calling Rubio, I've got a feeling Palenti's calling everybody.
No,
I think
Palin is a great guy, one of the most friendly candidates. But as a VP candidate, I don't see why you pick him. I see him as a potential
because he doesn't cause trouble, right?
Yeah, but to defeat Barack Obama, I think you need to bring up Christine O'Donnell's tone. Troublemaker.
Look at you. Look what I've started. You brought it all back.
I apologize for everyone, for both of us, for citing Christine O'Donnell. Anyway, looking at 2012, it's also about Obama. And I think this Ron Suskind book continues to have a little bit of has more life than I thought it would, because it hints at Obama's reported incompetence when it comes to managing his economic team. He's at Facebook today. He's doing the West Coast swing. What do you make of how Obama's handling his low poll numbers and this growing meme that he's not so strong in management and the economy?
Well, I think he's frustrated. He anticipated the economy, I think, to swing back by the time the campaign really got into, began. And this is obviously going to make it very, very much harder on him. He pushed for the stimulus packages, which he believed would fix the economy. Not necessarily fix it, but give it enough oomph, to propel him into 2013 to 2016. So, I've got a feeling that never, never, never underestimate Barack Obama. He's very, he's good at the campaigning. Watch him exit presidential mode and go into campaign mode. You've seen him on the trail. He could still really pick up at least a part of the momentum he had in 2008. I've got a feeling he and his team have some things up his sleeve that we don't see yet, and it'll come out over the next few months. Not just attacks or anything on the other candidates, but he's going to try for something big next year. I have a really good feeling of that, but I don't know it for sure, of course.
What do you mean by that, though?
Well, I don't know. I just think once he gets into campaign mode, that's his zone, and he's much better at that. Now, the economy could completely overshadow that. Totally, a
I think
possibility.
that's the case.
But
I think that flat. I saw him speak at the CDC, and I saw those remarks. He just seems flat these days.
How was the audience reception there?
Very, very good, and it was Obama in his rousing mode, but it was just a sense that.
What did you see the controversy that erupted about the two reports that came out of that night, where the Associated Press dropped his G's when he said, we're bringing, he's saying, something that ends in G, and then the, I think it was Huffington Post or another news outlet didn't drop the G's, and then someone on MSNBC said that the Associated Press reporter was racist because he dropped Obama's G. He left the apostrophe after the end.
I mean, that's a controversy I don't even care about wading into. That's just Huffington Post.
Probably better.
But it's interesting you mentioned it, because I did notice Obama's speaking style changes from speech to speech sometimes. In the Rose Garden, when I've seen him as a reporter, he can be very articulate, spot on with his syntax. He'll be very clear, slow. And other times, he is dropping G's and adopting almost not a twang, but it's just odd. He doesn't have a consistent speaking style for a president of the United States.
A lot of them do that, right?
True.
I mean,
and the Republicans do that just as much. That's for sure.
Right.
But notice Obama
I was just saying that
part of this. He does.
Yeah. I mean, you remember Hillary Clinton and
Sure.
the
I mean,
08.
they all do it to a certain extent.
Yeah. I don't necessarily hold that against him.
No, neither do I. I do notice it just as a listener.
But it'll be interesting to see who doesn't change in the venue. We're going to have some embed reporters out there with these candidates for a long time. I'd be fascinated to see somebody that's heard hundreds of these speeches, to kind of give a take on whether or not one of these guys or a few of them aren't changing, depending on the audience.
Well, Obama's picking up speed, trying to get his base back on his side. Republicans are doing their thing across the primary field. Any parting thoughts, Chris?
I'm waiting to see if Ralph Nader, in his campaign to go after Obama's primary challenge, if that picks up any steam. I don't think it will. I think the base will get behind the president.
Or, if you want to really talk about different things, Bloomberg independent run, Palin independent run. It's all possible, but we'll save that for next time.
Trump independent run.
Oh, gosh. He's meeting today with Bachmann, right?
With Romney.
Oh, gosh, he meets with everybody.
Now, here's a fun little parting shot. When he met with Perry, he called him Jim Perry. Rick Perry's first name is James. Maybe he knew that and was just being...
Maybe he's on the BlackBerry Wikipedia, just trying to remember who he was
right. But when he meets with Romney, will he come out and say, well, I had a great meeting with Willard? Isn't that Romney's real name, Willard?
It is Willard Mitt Romney, but give the man a break. His parents gave him that name.
Right.
I know, but Trump, anything Trump does, I think is worth it. It's newsy. Maybe not great
newsy,
news, but well noted. All right, this is Bob Costa with National View, Chris Moody with Yahoo News, political reporter. Follow him at yahoo.com. You can follow me at nationalview.com. And what's your Twitter, Chris?
At Chris_Moody.
Great. And I'm Robert Costa, NRO. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.